Well, this month is the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks in the US, a coordinated series of strategic terrorist strikes which sadly killed almost 3,000 people and changed the world forever. I'd like to share a story of terrorism and hospitality. I heard recently from John Dixon, a well-known historian and Christian media presenter. The story is the story of Hans Kühnen, an economist from Sydney, who on the morning of the 11th of September picked up his name tag for a conference he was attending in a room in the World Trade Center. In fact, it was in the grand ballroom of the Marriott Hotel at the foot of the North Tower. It started as just another day at another conference for Hans until it wasn't. What's significant about Hans's story is not how close he was to the devastating action or how he described the noise, the flames, the smoke, the pain, the agony, the terror, but how he talked about the kindness of a stranger that day, the hope amongst the chaos in what was the most traumatic day in his life. When the first plane crashed into the North Tower, he described how his conference room was shaken with great force. Tables were bouncing around, plates broken, and terrified people were running out to the street to find out what had happened, only to discover a war zone with cars burning, rubble everywhere, thick smoke, injured people, screaming people running for their lives. See, Hans was traumatised, as you can imagine, and initially unaware as to what had happened, what had caused the chaos and devastation. And then he heard the sound of a plane and witnessed right before him the second jet crash into the South Tower. And he saw a person blown out of the tower and fall to the ground. For Hans, it was fight or flight, and he fled as fast as he could to the ferry terminal to catch whatever ferry he could to escape the war zone. There was fear everywhere as he waited in the crowd, and suddenly the terminal shook violently as the South Tower collapsed, floor by floor. The sound was deafening as smoke filled the area. Hans eventually boarded a ferry without any belongings, but with his conference name badge still pinned to his shirt. Everyone was asked to put on a life jacket, which added to the panic and uncertainty. Now, there was a lady in the crowded ferry that day standing right next to Hans, whose name was Leslie, and she pulled on her life jacket, and as she did, one of her gold earrings fell to the ground. Hans picked up the earring and said, "Excuse me, madam, is this your earring?" She said yes, and while thanking Hans, noticed his name badge, Hans Kühnen, Sydney, Australia, and she asked where he was going. Hans replied, "I don't know, I'm just getting out of here as quick as I can." Then Leslie said the kindest words Hans has ever heard. "Would you like to stay with me and my family?" Wow, can you imagine how deeply comforting that must have been for Hans? He'd just seen evil of the highest order, and now goodness of the highest order was coming his way. Goodness was beginning to prevail over evil. Love and kindness was breaking in, and warm-hearted hospitality was emerging amid the terror and fear. A way forward out of the horror was opening. Hans, panic-stricken, not knowing what the next 30 seconds would bring, and emotionally naked, said, "Yes, I'd love to." Leslie's words touched the very depth of Hans's heart. He stayed with Leslie's family for 3 days, and he received Christian hospitality to the highest order, an outpouring of love and generosity and kindness as neighbours brought clothing and other items, as well as comfort, and eventually enabling communication with Hans's family in Sydney to relieve their fear and anxiety. Hans was cared for and comforted like never before. What a great story of hospitality in the midst of terrorism. You know, the Greek word for hospitality in the New Testament is a combination of two words, one meaning love and affection, and the other stranger. So biblical hospitality means showing love and kindness towards strangers, which is a very different idea to the entertainment culture of hospitality with friends we're so familiar with. And Hans was certainly a stranger to Leslie, and Hans received life-changing kindness in his hour of great need. He received hospitality. And the question I asked myself is, if this or something like it happened in Perth, would I do what Leslie did for Hans, who was a stranger in great need? Or would we reach out, even in small ways, to the new person in the foyer on Sunday, or the lonely, and include them in some way in our lives? Maybe just through a simple conversation, or providing a listening ear, or offering an invitation for coffee or even a meal. See, Leslie didn't know Hans, but she reached out with the love of Christ and loved her neighbour. What a great blessing that was to Hans, and the love of Christ at work in the world. Amen.